Now, game week 4 is all said and done. I'm pretty happy with how things went. I scored 72 points and I'm in 2.7 millionth overall. And I've got 3 free transfers and 3.3 million in the bank. Here are my transfer plans for game week 5. All right, a look first then at how my team got on in game week 4. Sanchez in goal, unfortunately conceding a couple of goals to Brentford. I mean, he's not going to keep a clean sheet every single week, so I'm not, willing to sell him or do anything with him. It's fine. Anderson, Richards and Porro in my defence. Anderson had a blinder against Leeds. Kept a clean sheet, got DEFCON and 2 bonus points, so very happy with his 10-pointer. Richards and Porro both keeping clean sheets as well. No DEFCON for either of those. It's amazing, isn't it? I've got Porro, who I thought, well, I say it was amazing. It's not surprising at all. I've got Porro, who you'd, at the start of the season at least, think he's probably the best Spurs defender for getting attacking returns, right? So far this season, he has not been. But he's in my team. I'm happy. I always saw a clean sheet there against West Ham. There was an opportunity to take him out of my team to spare a bit of cash to move things around. I spoke about my plans before game week 4, but was never going to sell him against West Ham. Semenyo, a 13-pointer for him. Really pleased with the move I made to sell Palmer and then sit on my hands with the spare cash. Yeah, quite happy with that. I was of the mind to try and sell Palmer but then spend all of the money. But right now, with all the money I've got in the bank, I'm pretty happy with how things have turned out, if that makes sense. Is he, just based on how he's been playing from open play as well in comparison to Salah, is Semenyo just the best midfielder in the game right now? I think he probably is, and we'll talk about who I'm going to captain for game week 5, but he is. He's a genuine captaincy shout with what he's been doing, and I would liken him to, in terms of the way he picks up his FPL points, he's very similar to Mbeumo from Brentford, right? The talismanic figure for his team. They won't play in Europe, so you'd imagine he starts every game and plays 90 minutes. And, as proven on Saturday, he is now the Bournemouth penalty taker, which is amazing. So yeah, goal assist, 13 points, bonus points on top. Fantastic. Rogers and Watkins both with blanks. Obviously, Rogers kept a clean sheet, so got his 3 points. But yeah, 4 games for these two. We'll talk about them in a second. 4 games for these two. They haven't done anything yet. Yeah, not too happy with what I've seen from them. Salah, a scabby penalty in terms of FPL returns. It's just inevitable that Liverpool were going to win that game at the end, in my opinion. But yeah, the way they did it, another sort of lucky last-minute return, I'd say, for Salah. But I'd say it's luck, but I feel like you kind of make your own luck in a way. I know that probably sounds mad, but that's what he's been doing this season. Turning up occasionally at the end of games and doing something. That's what happened yesterday. Bruno Fernandes and Reinders, both with a blank. Reinders kept a clean sheet. He did have a great chance towards the end of the game against Man United to make it 4-0 and score a goal. I always felt that the Man City-Man United game would be a complete mismatch in terms of the midfield. And that's exactly what happened. Man City ran absolute rings around Man United yesterday. And I think they're not the best Man City team I've ever seen. I think that's fair to say. The older Man City teams would have won that game 6 or 7-0, to be honest. I think Man United were lucky that they've faced a Man City team that's not quite as strong as they have been in previous seasons. Spoke about Watkins, João Pedro with an assist and some bonus points. We were all in doubt as to whether he was going to play. I was talking on my deadline stream about potentially getting rid of him. I stuck to my guns and he got an assist. So yeah, pretty happy with that. Like I said, 72 points, 2.7 million overall. Looking ahead then at my team for game week 5, this is how I'm looking. 3 free transfers and 3.3 million in the bank. I'm pretty happy, I'd say, with the goalkeeper and defenders that I've got. Sanchez, he's not going to keep a clean sheet every week. And the fixtures, they do start to get a bit tough for him. But I don't think it's a priority position for me to look at selling. I mean, if he doesn't keep a clean sheet, he's probably going to make some saves in a game to get some bonus points. I think he has done that this season already. So I'm just going to stick with him. Richards, Anderson, Pedro, Porro and Williams. The big decision I have to make here, again, I don't think I need to make a transfer in my defence unless I need to find some funds, which we can talk about in a second. But I don't think I need to make a transfer in my defence here. The only question is, who do I start You know, I've got Reinders sitting on my bench at the moment. I've ordered it by the Fantasy Football Hub expected points. Got Reinders sitting on my bench here, and Williams at the moment is starting, who was on my bench last week. I just worry about Forest's defence. I know they're playing Burnley, right? But they looked really suspect in my mind against Arsenal. They obviously conceded the 3 goals. Ange football is chalk and cheese different to Nuno ball, as we all know. They've got Zinchenko actually to play at left back. With Aina being injured, that moved Nico Williams to right back against Arsenal. And then Zinchenko wasn't eligible to play against Arsenal because obviously he's on loan from them. So, yeah, could we see a back 4 then of Nico Williams, Milenkovic? I think Murillo will play. I think he'll play because the reports suggested that it was just a knock that he got against Arsenal. It wasn't anything serious. So he should play. Hopefully he plays in Game Week 5. I think if we get news that Murillo doesn't play and Morato has to start for Forest again, I would be very concerned because he was pretty terrible against Arsenal. So it all kind of depends on the Forest lineup, but I think if we get good news that Murillo's going to start, I'll stick with Williams. I think Williams, even though his expected points are higher than the rest of my 3 defenders, he's the one that I would consider benching at the moment for Rangers because I think Richards, Anderson and Porro have done enough in my team to prove their worth. I guess the one that could also be on the chopping block, well, in terms of a bench, is Pedro Porro. That's another one I could potentially look to move on. Or not move on, but bench. But I think the fixture against Brighton and what we've seen from Spurs so far this season, they have looked fairly solid defensively, haven't they, Spurs? Yeah, that's going to be how it lines up at the moment. We'll see on the Forest team news. Salah's in, my captain against Everton. I do think that's going to be an interesting game. I think Everton, they always, I think, make it difficult for Liverpool, I would say. And I think under David Moyes, with the team they've got this season, that's no exception. So I don't think Salah's going to have a field day in that game. And to be honest, he's not gotten off to exactly the hottest start this season, right? He's relied on, I wouldn't say scrappy, I would say scrappy last-minute returns to get his FPL returns this season. That was no exception, obviously, against Burnley with the penalty. But he's got to be my captain, I think. Semenyo is genuinely a captaincy shout too, in my mind. He's got Newcastle at home. I just think the fixture golf is too much where you just have to go Salah. I do think, like I said, when going through my points, Semenyo is probably the best midfielder in the game right now. I'm very pleased. I think I bought him at 7.2 million. He's now gone up to 7.5 million. And like I said, I think he's probably the best midfielder in the game. Bruno Fernandes. Now, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. So I've got Rogers and Watkins, right? I'm going to talk about them first, actually. I'm sick of the sight of them in my team. 4 games they've both played so far, and I've done absolutely nothing, right? I had a quick look at what I could do with my team here, and I can't... I've got 3.3 million in the bank, but I can't just straight swap Rogers for someone that I really like and move Watkins onto Haaland. It's not that easy in my team. I'm going to have to find a replacement for Rogers and probably move on Bruno Fernandes in order to bring Erling Haaland into my team. So that's going to be my 3 transfers, I think. Rogers, Bruno Fernandes and Watkins. I want Haaland. You know, make no mistake, he's scored 5 goals from 4 games so far. This is the only debate I have in my mind about Haaland at the moment. The only thing that's sort of gnawing at me regarding Haaland is, we look at the fixtures. We'll go back to that screen, actually. Sorry, I'm flicking a little bit, aren't I? Watkins and Rogers have both got Sunderland. Obviously, Villa have got Sunderland. It's whether 0 goals in 4 games for Watkins, but Sunderland away, is worth keeping hold of as opposed to Haaland with 5 goals in 4 games against Arsenal away. And I think the thing that is potentially going to swing it for me is the fact that Erling Haaland takes penalties. I think if Ollie Watkins took penalties at 9 million, you've always got in the back of your mind that he just needs a penalty to score a goal. And I think that would earn him some more brownie points to stay in my team. I think Rogers is gone. You know, 4 games, nothing, less than 0.1 XG, less than 0.1 XA. He's gone as far as I'm concerned. I've had enough. But Watkins is a little bit trickier to get rid of. I still think I'm going to do it, though. I still think Haaland, 5 goals, 4 games is better than Watkins against Sunderland, 4 goals, 0 games. The problem I have with making these transfers is, unfortunately, I can't just sell Rogers and Watkins to get Haaland and like Elliot Anderson. If I try that, look, to get Anderson in, I'm 0.5 short. And that applies to like Caicedo as well, I think could be a really good option. So feel a little bit hamstrung. What I could do is sell Bruno Fernandes, but then, like I said, I feel like there's such a shortage of good midfielders in the game at the moment. And he's like, you just have a look, right? Outside of Bruno Fernandes, if you just look at the midfield, you got Palmer, who I think could be really good. And obviously I've got Reinders and Anderson, who are going to do, I think they're pretty decent. But there's just nothing below Bruno Fernandes in terms of midfielders that I like. Yes, there's all these guys, Mbumo, Minter, Dango, Eze, Madueke. They're all like respectable options, and Gakpo as well, of course. But at some point, Gakpo's minutes are going to reduce with Isak being in the team. And I don't know about you, but I'm not blown away by Eze, Madueke. Dango didn't even play or didn't even start in Gameweek 4. I'm not massively convinced by Minte. And Man United, they look terrible. So I can't really... Bruno Fernandes can get points for Man United regardless of how they play. And Mbumo is a bit different. And also, I don't really want to drop Bruno Fernandes to go for Mbumo. The one idea I do have, though, is to do something with Pedro Porro. I think the signing of Xavi Simons is big for Pedro Porro in Tottenham because it means that Porro is no longer on corners. So I think I could either get Romero in, who actually has arguably been better than Van de Ven, or I could just drop him and get Van de Ven in. And then that actually gives me a little bit of cash to play around with. It gives me 0.4 million if I make those moves. So that's what I could do. I could use all of my free transfers this week, my 3 free transfers, to take out Watkins and Rogers, bring in Haaland and Elliot Anderson. So I've got both Anderson and Reinders now in my team. We've got 1 game of sample size against Arsenal under Ange Postecoglou, where Anderson got DEFCON. When European football becomes a factor, is Anderson going to play 90 minutes every week in the Premier League? I don't know. Perhaps that's why Douglas Luiz has been brought in the team. And it's something that worries me a little bit about Elliot Anderson. So he's not completely clear or clean in terms of that value of midfielders. But I can't get Caicedo. Caicedo's the one I also really like. But I can't get him because I've got Mark Gu and I'm already triple Chelsea. So I'd have to make another transfer to make that happen. So this is the best way I think I can do it. We'll make the transfers and set the team. So Van de Ven, we're probably going to do that if Murillo's fit. So that's how we're looking, potentially ahead of Game Week 5. Sanchez in goal, Richards, Anderson, Van de Ven instead of Porro. I think the sideways move from Porro to Van de Ven makes sense. Neco Williams, Salah, Semenyo, Bruno Fernandes, Elliot Anderson against Burnley away, and Haaland and João Pedro. I think that's a good place to be for my team. The only thing is, I look here at Game Week 6, the week where Haaland is a clear captaincy shout. It's actually quite easy, isn't it? I was a little bit worried about how I work out my bench order, but I bench Richards against Liverpool, don't I? And that's my team. Yeah. I think those are pretty sensible moves, don't you? The only concern I have is about the Forest defence, but they're playing 2 promoted teams coming up. This saves me from using my wild card as well. I still haven't used a chip yet. Yeah. I think that's probably how I'm going to play it. We, of course, have cup games, Champions League to come. So, anything could happen to some of these players I'm planning to bring in. So I'm not going to say this plan is absolutely nailed on. We'll wait until sort of Wednesday, Thursday before I finalise my team. But I think those are some pretty sensible transfers. Let me know what you think of it in the comments. All right, well, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. If you did, please leave me a like rating. It's a little bit raw, it's a little bit ropey, but that's how these transfer plans videos are, because it's me off the cuff kind of thing, talking about my team and what I could potentially do to it. And it's the first time this season I've gone into Fantasy Football Hub and had a poke around as well. That's how difficult a decision I think I have to make this week. So yeah, let me know in the comments if there's any other changes you think I should make to this team. I think I'm fairly settled on it now though. And yeah, if you haven't already, want to see more content from me, please subscribe to the Golden Goal YouTube channel. Should be just there on your screen. And yeah, all that leaves me to say is thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.